A pleasant evening to all of you. Are you ready for our discussion? Alright, today we are going to discuss the Chapter 9 Unpacking Curriculum, Standard and Competencies. But before that, let me introduce to you my co-discussant. Yours truly, I'm Jessa Anchula Layosa, together with Hanilin Lopez, Ana May Malate, Maria Eloisa Nieva, Margie Noblesa, and Gian Oco. So here's our two objectives. In this chapter, you will be able to discuss the process for unpacking curriculum standards and competencies and experience unpacking curriculum to identify appropriate instructional strategies and assessment tools. So what is curriculum standard? Curriculum standard are broad statement of what the student needs to know and do as a result of learning. Yes, curriculum standard are broad statement that describe the overall goals of education. They outline what students are expected to know, understand, and be able to do after a certain period of learning. This standard serves as a guide for teacher in planning lessons, assessing learning, and ensuring that education goals are met. Let's proceed to the classes of standard based on K-12 curriculum. First one is content standard. Identify and set the essential knowledge and understanding that should be learned by the student. Content standard, so it is refers to the essential knowledge and understanding that student must learn in a subject area. Content standard answer the question, what should student know? They include important concept, principles, and idea related to a particular subject. These are often organized by grade level and subject to ensure progression and development of understanding. For example, in Science Grade 6, a content standard might be the learners demonstrate understanding of how different organ systems work together to maintain homeostasis. So this tells teachers that students need to understand the body system and how they function as a unit. The second one is performance standard. Refers to the knowledge, skills, and understanding that learner needs to demonstrate in every lesson or activities. Performance standard refers to the application of knowledge, skills, and understanding in real life or meaningful tasks. Performance standard answer the question, what should students be able to do with what they know? They help measure how well students can apply what they've learned. These standards often describe the level of quality expected in performing a task or solving a problem. Example, in English grade 8, a performance standard might be the learners transfer learning by composing and delivering a speech using appropriate techniques. Here, students are not just learning grammar or vocabulary, they are demonstrating communication skills. Last one is learning competencies. Learning competencies refers to the knowledge, skills, and understanding that learners needs to demonstrate in every lesson or activities. Learning competencies are specific and measurable skills or behaviorals that students are expected to demonstrate during lessons or unit. They answer the question, what specific abilities should the student demonstrate in each lessons? Learning competencies break down content and performance standards into teachable and observable behaviors. They serve as a daily learning objectives. For example, in mathematics grade 4, a learning competencies might be Add and subtract fraction with similar and dissimilar denominators without and with regrouping. This tells the teachers exactly what students need to practice and master during the lesson.
So, good day everyone. I am the next reporter, Hanilin Lopez. So, let's move on for the unpacking curriculum, standards, and competencies. Unpacking curriculum standard and competencies include several classes. So, what are those classes? Number one is classified standards as knowledge, skills, and values. Knowledge, if the learning competency calls for remembering and basic comprehension of a concept or a skill. Skills, if the learning competency calls for the learning to demonstrate or apply a skill or desired behavior. Values, if the learning competency calls for valuing and appreciation. In knowledge standard, these standards involve understanding and remembering facts, concept, or information. They also focus on acquiring the knowledge about the subject matter. An example of this is remembering historical dates or events. Another example is understanding scientific principles. And lastly is identifying key literacy themes in literacy novel. Number two is the skills. Here, it requires learners to demonstrate or apply specific abilities or behaviors. In the standards, it emphasizes the practical application of knowledge. An example of this is writing persuasive essays, solving mathematical equations, or conducting scientific experiments. Number three is the values. It focuses on instilling attitude, beliefs, and ethical principles in learners. The aim is to cultivate appreciation, empathy, and respect for others in the environment. The example here is demonstrating respect for diversity and cultural differences. Number two is displaying honesty and integrity in academic work. Number three, showing empathy towards others' perspectives by categorizing these three standards: the knowledge, the skills, and values. Educators can design a curriculum and assessment that address the diverse needs for learners and promote holistic development. Step 2. Identify the prerequisite knowledge, skills, and values for each learning competency. Example, describe changes in materials based on the effect of temperature, solid to liquid, liquid to solid, liquid to gas, or solid to gas. We will stick into this example. We will start with the prerequisite knowledge. It will talk about your understanding of the concept of states of the matter. Number two is familiarity with the molecular structure and behavior of different states of matter. The knowledge of basic scientific principles related to temperature and its effect on the matter. This focuses more on knowledge or what did you understand about the concept. Number two is to prerequisite skills. Observation skills to identify changes in material states. Number two, measurement skills to quantify temperature changes. ability to record and analyze data from experiments or observations. Lastly, the critical thinking skills to interpret results and draw conclusions. Now you will use your knowledge or apply it to real world situation using your skills. Last is the prerequisite values, which is curiosity and interest in exploring scientific phenomena, open mindedness to accept new ideas and revise understanding based on evidence, respect for safety protocols when conducting experiments involving temperature changes. Lastly, appreciation for the relevance of scientific knowledge in everyday life. So, by ensuring that students possess the necessary knowledge, skills, and values, educator can scaffold their learnings effectively and facilitate deeper understanding of the concept of changes in materials due to temperature effects. Step 3. Look for the desired skills or behavior in every competency. Identify the most suitable activity for each desirable behavior. Example, create crafts that can be locally assembled with local materials guided by local traditional techniques, hobby, tip lip, or etc. The desired behavior or skills in this learning competency is for student to create crafts assembled with local materials guided by traditional techniques. It implies that in each competency, there are specific skills or behavior that educators aim to develop in students. In the given example, the desired behavior or skills is for students to create crafts using local materials and traditional techniques. Here's how these align with the activity. Example activity is creating crafts that can be locally assembled with local materials, guided by traditional techniques. So, in this activity, it promotes several desirable behaviors. Number one is cultural appreciation by using local materials and traditional techniques. Students learn to appreciate the preserve their culture heritage. So number two, creativity and innovation. Crafting with local materials encourages students to think creatively and find innovative ways to utilize resources available in their environment. Number one, problem solving. Working with natural materials often presents challenges that require problem solving skills. So students must adapt their techniques to the characteristic of materials, fostering their resilience and resourcefulness. Another competency is hand-eye coordination and fine motor skills. So, engaging in crafting activities involves precise movement and manipulation of materials, enhancing students' hand-eye coordination and fine motor skills. Lastly is environmental awareness. Using local materials promotes environmental sustainability by reducing the carbon footprint associated with transportation and supporting local economies. Overall, in this activity not only allows students to express their creativity but also promote a cultural appreciation, problem solving, and environmental awareness through hands-on learning experience.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Anami Malate, the third discussant. Step 4, classify learning competencies to determine appropriate assessment tools, 1998. In this step 4 classification of learning competencies helps the student understand and determine the appropriate assessment tools in 1998. Standards with conventional testing, CST, these are learning competencies that require traditional assessment tools like quizzes and exam. So, these learning or competencies require the traditional assessment tools like quizzes, exam, multiple choice question, and true or false test that can use to evaluate specific learning competencies. Standard with performance tasks, SPT, these are learning competencies that require performance tasks for assessment or authentic assessment. Standard with performance tasks, and this competencies requires performance tasks for assessment such as project, role playing, presentation, case studies. They use to evaluate the different learning competencies. Standard for continuing development, SCD, these are competencies that you focus on values and attitude that cannot be assessed. In standard for continuing development, so these competencies focus on values and attitude that may be usually assigned through traditional methods such as character development, traditional intelligence, social skills, values formation. They can be also the chosen assessment methods to accordingly report student progress and identify areas for impairment. So by classification learning competencies into these categories, educators can determine the most suitable assessment. Assessment tools measure student learning and understanding. This help ensure that assessments are valid, reliable, and aligned with the learning objective.
So, hello everyone. Good afternoon to all. I am the next discussant for today's. I am Maria Eloisa Binyarva, and today I will tackle to all of you about the other techniques for unpacking curriculum standard and competence. So, the first bullet po is the taxonomy for educational objectives were developed and published by Blooms and Cartwells on 1956. So this point po refers to the original Bloom's taxonomy, which was developed by Benjamin Blooms and David Cartwell. So along with other collaborators and publishes in 1956. This is a classification system or framework used to categorize educational objectives based on the complexity level of thinking required. So, its purpose po is to help teacher and curriculum developers formulate clear and measurable learning objectives. Also po, this taxonomy po serve as a fundamental framework for many modern teaching and assessment approaches. So the next one, Bloom used a multi-tiered scale to express the level of expertise required to achieve each measurable student outcome. So this it means po that Bloom's taxonomy employed a hierarchical or multi-tiered scale to describe the different level of proficiency of or expertise. So needed to achieve a specific learning objectives. So it's simpler terms po, not all objectives require the same level of thinking. For instance, remembering po is a lower level cognitive process than analyzing or creating. So each level po has corresponding action verbs that are used to clearly express the expected learning outcome from student. So through this po, it's become measurable how deep a student understanding and skills are. So according po to Bloom's, so educational objectives can be categorized into three domains. So the first one po is the knowledge based or the cognitive domain. So it refers naman po to understanding and processing of information and knowledge. So this is the most well-known and frequently used domain po. So it's covered for various level of cognitive processes such as remembering, understanding, applying, analyzing, evaluating, and grading. So in this part po of learning concern with what student know. So the second one po is the skills based or the psychomotor domain. So this domain naman po is related to physical skills and coordination. So it's involved po acquiring skills that required action or manipulation of objects such as playing an instrument, building a project, or conducting an experiment. So this is the part po of learning concerned with what the student can do. So the last one po is the affective domain. So this domain naman po is covered aspect of feelings, values, attitudes, and interests and self-worth. So, it's related naman po to how a student feel about learning. So, how they interact with others and how they value knowledge. So, this include naman po receiving, responding, valuing, organizing, and internalizing values. So, this is the part of learning concern naman po na with what the student feels and how they act based on their beliefs. So, the next slide naman po representing the comparison between the original Bloom's taxonomy 1956 and the revised Bloom taxonomy on 2001. So, the Bloom taxonomy po 1956 and the left side pyramid with the word noun po. So, this is the original version was developed by Benjamin Blooms and his colleagues. So, it's categorized cognitive skills using nouns, arranged from lower order thinking skills to higher order thinking skills. So, the first one po, in the lower part, is the knowledge. So, this is the lowest level and involve recalling facts, term, basic concept, or answering without necessary understanding what they mean. So, the second po, and the second pyramid is the comprehension. So, this level naman po involves understanding the meaning of information. So, it goes by rote memorization to interpreting, explaining, or summarizing. So, the next one po and the third one is the application. So, this level po is using knowledge or understanding in the new situation or to solve a problem. So, for example, for in this application is, for example, applying a mathematical formula to solve a new problem. So, the fourth one po is the analyzing. So, this involves po breaking down information into its component part to understand its structure. So, it's include naman po identifying motives, causes, or relationship. So, the next one po is the synthesis. So, this level naman po involve putting together part to form a new whole and creating something new. So, required po creating thinking and integrating knowledge. So, the last one po is the highest level, which is the evaluation. So, evaluation po involve making judgment about the value or ideas or materials based on criteria. It's required po critical thinking and often involve comparing and contrasting. So, the next pyramid po is the revised Bloom taxonomy on 2001 na from noun po going to verb form. So, this is led by Lauren Anderson, a former student po of Bloom's, and David Cartwell. So, this revised version po was made several significant change. So, verb po instead of noun. So, the most noticeable change in the use of verb po is to describe the cognitive processes, making the taxonomy more action-oriented and easily to use in writing learning objectives. So, the next po is the rearrange of top 2 level, which is the original synthesis and evaluation level, where we ordered and renamed to evaluation, and evaluation is now the second highest level, and the new highest level is the word great, was introduced by renaming of some level was introduced in remaining of some level po, which is the knowledge become remembering, comprehension become understanding, application remains applying, analyzing or analyzed remain analyzing, synthesis were replaced by creating, and the last evaluation become evaluating. So, let's talk naman po about the revised level. So, the remembering po and the verb form, formally knowledge or retrieving, recognizing, and recalling relevant knowledge from long-term memory. So, the second, understanding or understand. So, formerly comprehension. So, constructing meaning from oral, written, and graphic message through interpreting, exemplifying, classifying, summarizing, interfering, comparing, and explaining. So, the next one po in the third level of pyramid is the apply or applying. What remained application. So, carrying out or using a procedure through executing or implementing. So, for example po is using a formula to solve a word problem. So, the next one po is the analyze or analyzing, has remained analyzed in noun form. So, this is breaking materials po into constituent parts. So, determining how the parts relate to one another and to an overall structured or purposes through differentiating organizing, and attributing. So, the next one po is the evaluate or evaluating. So, formally, the highest level. So, making judgment based on the criteria and standard through checking and critiquing. So, the next one po is the create or creating. That newly added formally synthesis. And so putting elements together to form a coherent or functional whole. So recognizing elements and into a new pattern or structured through generating, planning, or producing. So this is now considered the highest level of cognitive processing. So, let's talk naman po about the key differences summarize. Na first is noun versus verbs. So, the original use noun, for example po, is knowledge and synthesis. While in the revised use naman po, in the revised po, use verbs for in remembering and creating. So, making it more action-oriented for setting learning objectives. So, the second one po is the highest level. So, in the original, evaluation was the highest cognitive skill. So, while in the revised version naman, creating is the highest. And Creating is the highest and indicating that generating something new is considered a more complex cognitive process that simply evaluating existing ideas. So the third one or the last one is the synthesis and evaluation. So the original place synthesis below evaluation is the revised taxonomy place evaluation between creating. So it's reflecting a shift in how these high level skill are perceived. So this idea po is that you often evaluate before you create. So or that you creating something new is the ultimate demonstration of understanding and apply. So that's all po. Thank you so much. May I call on the next reporter?
So, good evening, everyone. I am the fifth discussant. My name is Margie B. Noblesa. So, this slide is the continuation of Bloom taxonomy. In the affective domain, Bloom focused on how students grow in terms of feelings, values, and attitudes. He categorized this into 5 levels, from basic awareness to fully living out the values. The first one is receiving. Listen first comments. This is the most basic level. It means being open to others' ideas, such as listening attentively to your classmates' comments. The second one is responding. Leave unique comments that contribute to the development of a conversation. This means not only listening but also actively participating. For example, leaving thoughtful comments that move the conversation forward shows you're engaged. The third one is valuing. Share one's perspectives while respecting the diverse opinions of the group. Here, you begin to appreciate and respect the ideas shared. You share your own opinion while still respecting others' perspectives. The fourth one is organizing. Accept different viewpoints and build upon them to develop new perspectives and understanding of ideas. At this stage, you begin to accept different viewpoints and use them to create your own structured understanding, perhaps by combining ideas to form new insights. And the last one is internalizing values. Cooperatively collaborates with group members. This is the deepest level. you fully adopt positive values, like always cooperating with group members, even without being told. Um, in this affective domain, it's not just about what you know, but how you behave and interact respectfully and meaningfully with others. For psychomotor domain, Bloom categorized skills-based learning competencies into 6 categories from simple to complex. The first one is perception, the ability to notice or identify cues in your environment. For example, recognizing how a tool should be handled. The second one is set, being mentally and physically ready to act, like getting into position before a dance or sport activity. The third one is guiding response, performing a task with step-by-step guidance or by imitating others. Think of learning a new skills with a teacher's help. The fourth one is mechanism, doing the task more confidently and smoothly without much help, like typing fluently or using a camera correctly. The fifth one is adaptation. At this level, you can adjust your movements based on the situation. For example, changing a dance routine to fit a smaller stage. And the last one is organization, the highest level. Here you can create a new movement patterns or routine from scratch, like choreographing your own dance or inventing a new drill in sports. So, in the psychomotor domain, we move from simply observing to mastering and even creating new physical skills.
Fink 2003 also presented an alternative taxonomy for categorizing different types of learning outcomes. It is known as Fink's taxonomy of significant learning. Fink presented his taxonomy for a systematic approach to course design that went beyond the usual focus on content. This taxonomy helps educators design courses that are more effective and engaging by considering not just what students learn, but how they learn and what they do with their learning. Ito ay lumalampas sa simpleng paghahatid ng impormasyon at naghihikayat ng mas malalim na antas ng pag-unawa. Learning how to learn. Becoming a better student, inquiring about a subject, self-directing learners. The learning how to learn. This is about developing metacognitive skills, strategies for learning and self-directed learning. Ito ay kung paano nila pamahalaan ang kanilang proseso ng pag-aaral at kung paano magsaliksik ng mas epektibo. Foundational knowledge, understanding and remembering, information, ideas. Foundational knowledge, this is the basic information and concept students need to learn. Tungkol naman ito sa pag-unawa at pag-aalala sa mga ideya na may kaugnayan sa paksa. The next is application, skills, thinking, critical creative, and practical thinking, managing projects. Application is focuses on using the foundational knowledge to solve problems or perform tasks. Binibigyang diin nito ang praktikal na aplikasyon ng mga kasanayan at kritikal na pag-iisip. Integration, connecting ideas, people, realms of life. Ito naman ay tungkol sa pagkonekta ng natutunan ng mga estudyante sa kurso sa ibang mga lugar ng kanilang buhay, ibang mga paksa at ibang mga tao. Human dimension, learning about oneself, others. Human dimension focuses on the personal growth and development of the student. Kinasasangkutan nito ang pag-aaral tungkol sa sarili, sa iba at sa pagpapaunlad ng pag-unawa. The last is caring, developing new feelings, interests, and values. Caring, involves developing new feelings, interests, and values related to the subject matter. Nagtataguyod ito ng isang pakiramdam ng pamumuhunan at pagkahilig.
And that's all po. Thank you for listening.